Hello again, everybody. This is Kasem, and it's Saturday night, November 9th, 1985. If you're listening right now, whether you're driving home from work, or lying in bed unable to sleep, or sitting alone in the dark wondering if tomorrow's worth seeing, I want to tell you something. Something I've never told on the air before. Something about a phone call, a song, and the night Frank Sinatra proved that sometimes the voice on the radio isn't just entertainment. Sometimes it's the difference between life and death. I've been doing this show for 15 years now. 15 years of countdowns and 15 years of playing songs for people in love, people missing someone, people celebrating, people grieving. I thought I'd seen it all, heard every kind of story, every kind of request. I was wrong. Outside my studio window tonight, Los Angeles is quiet. The city that never sleeps is taking a breath. The palm trees are still. The traffic on the freeway has thinned to a whisper. It's the kind of night that makes you think about the fragility of life, about how quickly everything can change, about how sometimes the smallest gesture, a song played at exactly the right moment, can change everything. Let me take you somewhere. Close your eyes if you can. Come with me to a different studio. A different Saturday night. September 14th, 1985. 2 months ago. The night I received a letter that would change 3 lives forever, including my own. The letter. It was late, maybe 9 p.m. We were preparing for the long-distance dedication segment. This is the part of the show where I read letters from listeners requesting songs for people far away, soldiers overseas, families separated by distance, lovers apart. It's always the most emotional part of the broadcast, the part where I have to keep tissues nearby because sometimes the stories are too much even for me. My producer Tommy came into the studio. He was holding a letter, but he wasn't smiling. Tommy always smiles when he brings me He loves this part of the show, but not tonight. Tonight his face was pale. His hands were shaking. Tommy, Casey, you need to read this. Right now, Kasem. The envelope was cream-colored. Expensive stationery. The handwriting was elegant. Careful, the kind of handwriting you learn in Catholic school. Each letter perfectly formed, but I could see where the ink had smudged, where tears had fallen on the page. I opened it, and I read, Dear Kasem, my name is Katherine. I'm 24 years old. By the time you read this letter, I'll probably be gone. Not away, somewhere. Just gone. I can't do this anymore. I can't keep pretending everything's okay when it's not. When it hasn't been okay for a very long time. I'm not writing to ask you to talk me out of it. I'm not writing to ask for help. It's too late for that. I'm writing because I want one last thing. One last beautiful thing before I go. I want to hear Frank Sinatra's voice. I grew up listening to my father play Sinatra records. Every Sunday morning, he'd put on My Way or Fly Me to the Moon, and he'd dance with my mother in the kitchen. She'd laugh and tell him he was out of rhythm. He'd say he didn't need rhythm when he had Sinatra. They were so happy, Casey, so deeply, impossibly happy. My father died 3 years ago. Cancer. My mother followed 6 months later. Broken heart. The doctor said, though they called it something more medical. But I know. She died because she couldn't live without him, and now I'm alone. Completely alone. I have no siblings. No family left. I lost my job 2 months ago. I'm being evicted next week. I have $47 in my bank account and nowhere to go. I'm so tired, Casey, so tired of fighting, so tired of waking up every morning and trying to find a reason to keep going when there isn't one. But before I go, I want to hear Sinatra one more time. I want to remember my father dancing in the kitchen. I want to remember when the world was good, when I believed in things, when I thought life was beautiful. Please play My Way. For my father, for my mother, for the girl I used to be when Sunday mornings meant Sinatra and dancing and believing tomorrow would always come. Thank you for all the years of music. Thank you for being that voice in the dark that makes people feel less alone, even though tonight I am more alone than I've ever been. Katherine Morrison, Los Angeles, California's KSC. Kasem, I sat there, holding that letter, reading it again, and my hands were shaking, because I knew this wasn't just another dedication. This was a goodbye letter. This was someone saying they were going to die. Tonight, maybe right now, maybe while I was sitting here reading their last words, I looked up at Tommy. He was crying. Casey, do we have a phone number, an address, anything? Tommy, return address on the envelope. That's all. Casey, call the police. Right now, give them the address. Tell them it's an emergency. Kasem. Tommy ran out of the studio. I sat there alone, looking at that letter, looking at the elegant handwriting, at the tear stains, at the words. By the time you read this, I'll probably be gone. I had 20 minutes until we went live with the long-distance dedications segment. 20 minutes to decide what to do. Do I read this letter on the air? Do I play the song she requested? Do I violate her privacy by making her pain public? Or do I stay silent? Do I play some other dedication? Some safe, happy story about a soldier wanting to send a song to his wife? Do I protect this woman's dignity by keeping her suffering private? I thought about that for maybe 30 seconds. And then I knew exactly what I had to do. because maybe Katherine was listening. Maybe she was sitting alone wherever she was, radio on, waiting to hear if I'd read her letter, waiting for that one last song, that one last moment of beauty before the end. And if she was listening, I needed her to hear something else, something more than just Sinatra's voice. The countdown ended. We hit the long-distance dedications segment. The familiar music played. I took a breath, looked at the letter in my hands, and I began. Casey Kasem. And now it's time for our long-distance dedication. Tonight, I have a letter I almost didn't read, because it's not like the others. It's not about celebration, or love, or happy endings. It's about pain. Real pain. The kind that makes you wonder if the sun will ever rise again. But I'm reading it anyway, because sometimes the most important thing we can do is bear witness. To say, I hear you, I see you. Your pain matters. Your life matters. This letter is from Katherine in Los Angeles. And Katherine, if you're listening, and I hope to God you're listening, this is for you. Casey Kasem read the entire letter. Every word. My voice broke 3 times. I had to stop twice to compose myself. In 15 years of doing this show, I had never done anything like this. Never made something so private, so raw, so desperate, public. But I kept reading, because Katherine deserved to be heard. Her pain deserved to be acknowledged. Her life deserved to matter to someone, even if that someone was a radio DJ she'd never met. When I finished, I looked at the microphone, at the red light that meant thousands, maybe millions of people were listening. And I said, Casey, Kasem, Katherine, I don't know if you're listening. I don't know where you are right now, but I need you to hear something. Your father loved you. Your mother loved you. They wouldn't want this for you. They wouldn't want their daughter, the girl they danced with in the kitchen on Sunday mornings, to give up. You say you're alone, and maybe that's true tonight. Maybe you don't have family. Maybe you don't have a job, or money, or a place to go. But you're not invisible. You're not nothing. You matter. Your life matters. I'm going to play the song you requested, and I'm going to ask something of you. I'm going to ask you to listen to every word, to remember your father, to remember those Sunday mornings, to remember that there was a time when life was good. And Katherine, if it was good once, it can be good again. Please, please call someone. Call a crisis line. Call a hospital. Call anyone. Just don't do this. Don't let tonight be the end. Your father's favorite song is coming up next. And Katherine, wherever you are, your father would want you to hear it. He'd want you to keep fighting. He'd want you to keep dancing. Even when the music's hard to hear. This Is My Way, by Frank Sinatra. For Katherine, for her father, for everyone listening who's fighting their own darkness tonight, you're not alone. Sinatra's voice filled the airwaves. That unmistakable voice, smooth, confident, singing about living life on your own terms, about facing the end with dignity, about regrets too few to mention. And now, the end is near, and so I faced the final curtain. I sat in the studio listening, praying, please God, let her be listening. Let her hear this. Let this matter. Tommy came back into the studio. He shook his head. The police had gone to the address. No one answered. They were getting a warrant to enter the apartment. But that took time. Time we might not have. The song played, 4 minutes and 40 seconds. An eternity. I stared at the phone lines, hoping, begging the universe for them to light up. For Katherine to call. For anyone who knew Katherine to call. The song ended. I came back on the air. Started to introduce the next segment, and then one of the phone lines lit up. Then another. Then all of them. Every line blazing red. Calls flooding in. Tommy looked at me through the studio glass, held up a piece of paper, written in urgent capital letters, Frank Sinatra is online. I stared at that paper, at those 4 words, Frank Sinatra is on line 3. It wasn't possible. Frank Sinatra didn't just call radio stations. Frank Sinatra was, well, he was Frank Sinatra, one of the biggest stars in the history of music, in the history of entertainment, in the history of American culture. Frank Sinatra was 69 years old, semi-retired, a living legend. He didn't listen to American Top 40. He didn't call DJs. Except tonight. Tonight he did. I picked up the phone, my hand shaking so badly, I almost dropped it. Casey, this is Casey Kasem. Frank Sinatra. Casey, Frank Sinatra. I heard what you just did. That letter you read, that girl, Katherine. Casey Kasem, the voice. Oh God, the voice. Unmistakable. That tone that had sung 1,000 songs. That had crooned 2 millions. That voice that could make the hardest man cry and the coldest woman melt. Casey, Mr. Sinatra. I don't know what to say. Frank, don't say anything. Just listen. I want to talk to her. That girl, Katherine, if she's listening, if she calls in, you give her my private number. You understand? My private number. I want to talk to her. Casey, sir, I don't even know if she's listening. The police are Frank. She's listening. Trust me, I've been doing this long enough to know. She wrote that letter because she wanted to be heard. She wanted someone to care. Well, someone cares. You tell her, Frank Sinatra wants to talk to her. You tell her, I've got time. All the time in the world. You tell her what you did tonight, reading that letter, playing that song that took guts. Real guts, and if you've got that kind of guts, she's got guts too. She just needs reminding. Kasem, I was crying. Actually, crying on the phone with Frank Sinatra, but I didn't care. Casey, Mr. Sinatra, thank you. Thank you so much. Frank, don't thank me yet. Just make sure she calls. Make sure she knows someone gives a damn. Kasem, he gave me his number. His private line. I wrote it down with shaking hands. And then, Frank Sinatra hung up. I sat there for maybe 10 seconds, staring at that number, at the phone, at the miracle that had just happened, and then I went back on the air. The second plea, Kasem, ladies and gentlemen, something just happened that I'm still trying to process. Frank Sinatra, yes. The Frank Sinatra just called this radio station. He heard Katherine's letter. He heard my way, and he wants to talk to her. Katherine, if you're listening, and I'm begging you, please be listening. Frank Sinatra wants to speak with you. He gave me his private number, his personal line. I can't give it out on the air. But if you call the station, if you call right now, I will give it to you. Do you understand what I'm saying? Frank Sinatra, the man whose voice you grew up listening to, the voice your father loved, the voice that made Sunday mornings magical. He wants to talk to you. He wants to tell you himself. Whatever he needs to say, whatever you need to hear. Please call. Please. The number is. I gave out the station number, and I waited. The phone lines were still lit up. Hundreds of calls. People wanting to talk, wanting to help, wanting to find Katherine, wanting to do something, anything. But none of them were Katherine. I kept broadcasting, kept playing songs, kept watching those phone lines. Please, please let her call. 20-7 minutes later, 10:47 p.m. Tommy burst into the studio. He didn't use the intercom. He actually opened the door, something you never do during a live broadcast. And he was crying and laughing at the same time. Tommy, she called. Katherine called. She's on hold. Kasem, I cut off the song that was playing. I didn't care. I didn't care about format or protocol or anything. I picked up the phone. Katherine, I'm here. I'm still here. Kasem. Her voice was small, broken, like a child who'd been crying for hours. But she was alive. She was breathing. She was there. Katherine, thank God. Are you okay? Where are you? Katherine, I'm home. I was going to, but then I heard you. I heard you read my letter. And I thought no one cared. I thought I could just disappear and it wouldn't matter to anyone. But you read it on the air. You made it matter. Casey, you matter. Katherine, you've always mattered. And there's someone who wants to talk to you. Someone who heard your letter and wants you to know you're not alone. Katherine who? Casey, Frank Sinatra. Casey, Kasem. Silence on the line, just breathing. And then, Katherine, that's not possible. Casey, it's possible. He called. He gave me his number. He's waiting by the phone right now. He wants to talk to you. Katherine, why would Frank Sinatra want to talk to me? Casey, because he heard your story, because he understands pain, because he's lost people too, because he's been in dark places, and because he knows that sometimes all we need is for someone to tell us it's worth staying. Katherine, I'm going to give you his number, and I want you to call him right now. Will you do that? Katherine, I don't know what to say to him. Casey, you don't have to say anything. Just listen. Can you do that? Can you listen? Katherine, yes. Okay, yes. Kasem. I gave her Frank Sinatra's private number. I made her promise to call immediately. She promised. I hung up, and I waited. The conversation. I found out later, much later, what happened during that phone call. Frank Sinatra talked to Katherine Morrison for 32 minutes. He told her about losing his own parents, about the death of friends, about dark nights when he didn't think he could go on, about times when the weight of fame and expectation and loneliness crushed him so completely he didn't want to face another day. He told her about his first wife, Nancy, and how losing her broke something inside him that never fully healed. About his mother, Dolly, who died in a plane crash, and how he screamed when he got the news. About standing at gravesides and wondering why he was still alive when people he loved weren't. He told her about music, about how songs had saved him, how, when everything else failed, when pills didn't work and whiskey didn't work and nothing made sense, he could sing. And singing reminded him he was still human, still capable of creating beauty, still here for a reason. And then he told her something he'd never said publicly. He told her that he'd thought about suicide, twice. Once in the 1950s, once in the early 1970s, dark periods when everything seemed pointless and he couldn't see tomorrow. Frank Sinatra. But I didn't do it. You know why? Because I kept thinking there's one more song, one more performance, one more moment, and maybe that moment will be the one that makes sense of everything. Maybe that moment will be why I'm here. And Katherine, tonight, talking to you, this is one of those moments. You hearing me right now? That's why I'm still here. To tell you, it gets better. It doesn't feel like it will, but it does. Kasem. He made her promise to call a hospital, to check herself in, voluntarily, to get help, real help, professional help, and he made her promise something else. Frank, promise me you'll call me in a week. Same number. I want to know you're okay. I want to know you're still fighting. Can you promise me that? Katherine, I promise. Frank, good. Now go. Right now, get help. And Katherine, your father would be proud of you for being brave enough to ask for help, for being strong enough to stay. The following Saturday, September 21st, 1985, I was back in the studio. Same time, same countdown show. And during the long-distance dedications segment, I received a letter. It was from Katherine Morrison. Katherine's LATTR dear, Casey, writing from a hospital in Los Angeles. I checked myself in the night I called your show. The night Frank Sinatra talked to me for 32 minutes and reminded me that life is worth living. I wanted to thank you for reading my letter, for playing the song, for caring about a stranger who was ready to give up. You didn't have to do that. You could have played a different dedication. Something safe, something happy, but you didn't. You took a risk. You made my pain public, and in doing so, you saved my life. I also wanted you to know, I called Frank like I promised. We talked for 20 minutes. He asked how I was doing, if I was eating, if I was talking to the doctors, if I was taking my medication. He made me laugh. Casey, he told me stories about Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. and the Rat Pack days. He made me remember what laughing feels like. He's going to call again next week. He said he wants to make sure I'm okay. He said I'm his new project. He said everyone needs a purpose. And right now, making sure I stay alive is his. I'm not cured. I'm still depressed. I still have dark days. But I'm here. I'm fighting. And every time I think about giving up, I think about you reading my letter. About Frank calling. About two strangers who decided my life mattered. Thank you, Casey. For everything. Katherine Casey Kasem. I read that letter on the air, and I cried. Again, because this was the whole point of everything I'd ever done. Every countdown. Every dedication. Every song played. This was why. To remind people they're not alone. To create moments of connection across distance. To prove that sometimes, the voice on the radio is more than entertainment. Sometimes it's a lifeline. 20 years later, September 2005. 20 years after that night, I received an invitation to a wedding. Katherine Morrison was getting married. She wanted me there. The invitation included a letter. Katherine's letter, 2005. Dear Casey, 20 years ago, you saved my life. I was 24 years old, alone, broke, and ready to die. You read my letter on the radio. You played my father's favorite song. And you connected me with Frank Sinatra, who talked me off the ledge. I'm 44 now. I've been in therapy for 20 years. I've had good years and hard years. But I'm here. I'm alive. And I'm getting married to a man who knows my whole story and loves me anyway. Frank kept his promise. He called me every week for 6 months. Then once a month for 2 years. He sent me birthday cards. He invited me to concerts. He introduced me to his family. He became a friend. A real friend. Not Frank Sinatra, the legend. Just Frank, a man who understood pain and decided to help a stranger. He died in 1998. I was at his funeral. I met his children. They knew who I was. Frank had told them the story about the girl he talked to in 1985, about the night he saved a life with a phone call. I want you at my wedding, Casey, because you're part of this story. You're part of why I'm alive, why I'm happy, why I'm standing here 20 years later with a future I never thought I'd have. Please come. Please celebrate with me. Please see what you started that night in 1985. With love and gratitude. Kasem Casey Kasem. I went to the wedding. Of course, I went. How could I not? It was beautiful. Katherine looked radiant, happy, whole. Her husband looked at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. They danced to my way. Everyone cried, including me. At the reception, Katherine introduced me to people. She told them the story, the letter, the song, Frank's call. She told it matter-of-factly, like it was just a thing that happened. Not a miracle, just life. But I knew better. I knew how close we came to losing her. How easily that night could have ended differently. Tonight, so here we are, November 9th, 1985. 2 months after that September night, and I'm telling you this story for a reason. If you're listening right now, and you're in a dark place, if you're thinking about giving up, if you're wondering if anyone would care if you disappeared, I need you to hear me. Someone would care. I would care. The people listening right now would care. Your life matters. Your pain matters. Your story deserves to be heard. Katherine thought she was alone. She thought no one cared. She was so wrong. Don't make the same mistake. Call someone, anyone. Call a crisis line. Call a hospital. Call a friend. Call this radio station. Just call. Just reach out. Just stay. Because you never know what tomorrow brings. You never know who might call, who might care, what might change. Katherine didn't know Frank Sinatra would call. She didn't know he'd talk to her for 32 minutes. She didn't know he'd become her friend. She didn't know that 20 years later, she'd be dancing at her wedding to the same song that almost became her goodbye. She didn't know, but she stayed. And everything changed. Please stay. Please fight. Please call. The National Crisis Hotline. IS 1-800-273-8255. They're available 24 hours a day. They want to help. Let them help. And if you're not in crisis, if you're okay tonight, check on someone who isn't. Call a friend you haven't talked to in a while. Reach out to someone who seems alone. Be the voice that reminds someone they matter. Because that's what we're here for. That's what this whole thing, life, radio, music, connection, that's what it's all about. Reminding each other we're not alone. That we matter. That tomorrow is worth seeing. Frank Sinatra knew that. He lived it. And on September 14, 1985, he proved it. This next song is for Katherine, for Frank, for everyone who's fighting, for everyone who's staying. Keep your feet on the ground. And keep reaching for the stars. Even when the stars seem impossibly far away. Even when the ground feels like it's crumbling. Reach anyway. Someone's reaching back. I promise. This is Kasem. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. Thank you for being here. And please stay. Good night.